Hi, everybody, and welcome to the show, The Strange Reality with Dave Emmons. And in my, progression of getting into the miraculous and the ETs and the communications and spiritualism, that type of thing, getting deeper into the UFO thing, uh, the thought pattern, I guess the psychology of it is actually exciting me at this point because I need to dig deeper. And as I get older, you need to dig fast. So you just have to keep going, and your curiosity keeps driving you crazy. So that's the real thing that drives me, and I know that drives a lot of my guests. Uh, and On the strange reality, we've had all different types of topics talked about, different guests, and I have a guest again that's from Australia. And I've had about this is the fourth Australian person
Oh,
I've had in about a month or so. Yeah, I believe, yeah, it's about the fourth, and all been very nice, very detailed, and very nice people. I love the down under people and uh,
I'm actually from New Zealand.
New Zealand. Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well,
Moved here though to
that's just a
Australia.
little above down under, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And my guest today is Bobbie Richardson. And she says here, only you can create the world you want. It isn't just your birthright, but also your responsibility. And she's done that for herself. Bobbie Richardson, motivational speaker, seer, channeler, empath, visionary, author, illustrator, artist, singer, songwriter, video producer, a YouTuber, and she's got a YouTube show, and we'll point that out to you soon. And she's a proud mom, and she's got how many children? How many
Three.
children? Three. Okay, great.
Three.
And
Three
she's
girls.
okay, and she's a mom who found wisdom through spiritual guidance. And how she got that spiritual guidance, she'll be telling us. She just told me a story pre-show that was very, I guess, very interesting, especially for me, since I've been through some of these things, and she's had her share of experiences. She's a mom who found wisdom through spiritual guidance. I have very little education. All of my wisdom was given to me by spirit through dreams, visions, seeing with my eyes into other frequencies and real visitations. We'll talk about those visitations. I have seen many different beings giving me information since I was a child till I was 50 years old. And I guess that's when it stopped, the visitations. They say it stops when you get older, but my visitations haven't stopped, and I'm older than you.
Yeah.
I'm not going
I'm
to
not
tell you how.
saying that it's I'm not saying that it stopped completely,
Yeah.
but it's certainly they pulled right back so that they could channel through me instead. They wanted me to learn a channel, and I was reliant on the visuals
Hmm.
instead, so they pulled that back.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then you have many guides showing you the path to higher frequencies, and high frequencies is what it takes for you to be happy, joyful, and fulfilled.
Yeah.
From other guests I just had, they talk about the same thing. But you're into the ET visitations and Pleiadians, and I adore the Pleiadians because I know that they've been close to us all throughout our human history. And I just
Mm.
wrote a sci-fi book about Pleiadians. So and but others were those showing me the power I denied myself. I was taken to different dimensions on earth, places that humanity can tap into once they find a balance within and take their own authentic power back. Now she goes on to say, and there's a lot of stuff here that she's got on the site, and I was telling her about my trouble with my printer, and I just got this hot off the presses just a while ago. I was working on my printer the last couple of days, and she says her passion is to align humanity with their potential by reawakening the right brain, to ignite our natural abilities, that the intuition and imagination, giving us new abilities, which I call the three T's, other than the three R's, that of telepathy, telekinesis, and teleportation, and much more, thus giving humanity a whole new perspective into our reality, one where we are all responsible for our own creation, thus connecting us with Earth and her magic and her vastness of other beings of higher dimensions or vibrations. We can say dimensions too, I guess that wasn't a total mistake, of higher vibrations from the stars, taking back our power within to create a world we all love and are proud of. And Bobbie Richardson, welcome to the show.
You.
Anything you want to tell us to start off with, a little bit about you that you feel that's going on now, or what are you up to now?
I've actually just started up some master classes, so they're all on clearing the mind to becoming more telepathic or be able to channel.
Mm-hmm.
So those master classes, they started in June, July, and another session's happening in August. So if you want to jump on to them, yeah, there's heaps going on there with 4 videos going all the way through from clearing the mind, bringing in the soul, the pineal gland, heaps of information that I was downloaded about the pineal gland, and then telepathy. And then there's 5 different games of telepathic games that you can
Mm-hmm.
play. And 4 Zoom calls or chances to Zoom call with me. You don't have to attend all of them, but just to check in and stuff like that. But yeah, so that's my big deal at the moment.
Right. And you had your spirit guides and the extraterrestrials teach you a lot of this stuff. Bobbie, I know that
Yes, that's all that
from
they
New
taught
Zealand,
me.
not
Yeah.
Australia. Okay.
It's
But
all right. I'm in Australia now.
you're Australia now. Okay. That's
Yes.
just a hop, skip, and a jump, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
I was born
it's
in South Island, Christchurch, in New
yeah,
Zealand. Yeah.
yeah, and it's amazing that we can talk this far away. I'm from I'm
No.
here in Illinois, and you're way in Australia. Uh,
Yeah.
Now, Bobbie, you were telling me a story, fascinating story, and I like to start with how somebody got involved with the extraterrestrials or this type
Mhm.
of phenomena. And you started at 11 years old. Could you repeat that story that you told me earlier, Bobbie?
No, I actually started before then because I could see into different frequencies. I had the same gift as what my mum had, where I'd wake up and see things that weren't there. But she shut it down because she didn't like it. But
Hmm.
my curiosity, I like that word that you used before, my curiosity took me even further because I was like, where the heck can this go? Why is this actually happening to me? And at the age of like 5, you don't think like that. You're just like, oh, this is the norm. But when your mum says, no, you're not allowed to do that, you're like, well, why not? So the questions do start rolling. Um, so that happened. But the story that I was telling you is when I was 11. So when I was 11, it would have been, I think it was 1978. And well, it would have been 78, of course. And I ended up having visitation from a UFO and what I would call the Pleiadians. But at the time, I didn't know what was going on, of course, and I didn't know much about UFOs or anything. I looked outside my bedroom window and there was a bright orange ball just sitting in the sky. And I thought it was like a traffic light. So I looked up and realized that the highway was further away and it wasn't anywhere near where this big ball of light was in the sky. And then I sat there and stared at it for a while, and this slight telepathic communication came through me, but I was dismissing it because of what it was saying. They were saying, oh, yes, we've found you. And I'm like, well, who am I? I'm an emotional, empathic kid that keeps crying all the time because I feel into everybody. Who am I to be, found sort of thing. But
Right.
then all of a sudden it just took off really fast. And I just freaked out and stayed in my bed, would not move, not one finger, sweated profusely. I was just sitting there. And then my door opened and my father walked in. But my father had never walked into my room before, never walked into my room after. And I asked him a few days later, and he said he never walked into my room that night. So it was not my father. And if I look back now, I can see a grey haired man. I don't see my father, but at the time I did. And he sat on my bed and he took my hand and he said nothing, which is not what my father would do either. And then he just calmed me down by just holding my hand. And then he sat up, got back up, and walked back out. And that was exactly the same time, actually, which I haven't told you, as when the UFOs were being found around Kaikoura. And that was videoed by and recorded by the actual television stations. So that's all up there. I actually had seen the plane. I actually went to Blenheim, where the plane is in memorial plane now, like an actual statue sitting there. And went, wow, this is the actual plane. That the person that saw the UFO that I saw, which was around Kaikoura, about 3.5 hours drive from my house. So of course UFOs can move really quickly. You know, that would be like a 2-second drive for a UFO. Anyway, from there, I ended up having, like, I was found on the roof of my house, running backwards with my hands in the air, and I didn't know how I got there. I had balls of lights coming into my room, which my sisters reminded me of, and there's all this sort of stuff that started to happen. But it really started to take off for me when I started to see more. But I had to leave home to do that because my mum was quite a powerful force, and she just shut it down, that kind of gift down within herself and within me, until I left home. As soon as I left home, I started to see things into other vibrations, messages that were given to me, ETs that would come and visit me, all sorts of different things. And I've got a million stories because of it. But I've kept really grounded through this whole thing because I've realized, you know, we've got to be able to fit into the normal world. So, you know, no, I've never been on any sort of medication or anything like that. It's just been rolling with it and making sure that I'm grounded through the whole experiences.
Let me ask you
Uh,
questions.
yeah.
Uh, when you were laying in your bed and you saw these ETs come and visit you, were you kind of numb or were you paralyzed with paralysis?
Some, there has been the odd occasion where that has happened, and I actually asked about it because I've been visited by quite a few different species. The
Mhm.
one time that it did happen majorly was when the Anunnaki visited me, and I know if you were going to go to Anunnaki, what the
Yeah, tell us what they
but,
look like. Tell us
but
what these.
but what had happened was I was seeing so many stories, but I was seeing so many things that I just turned around and said, right, I need to take control of this. And they said, well, if you take control of this, because I was seeing dead people giving messages to people about the people that had passed, as well as ETs, as well as the elementals, just so many different things.
Right.
So because I was taking control of it, they said, you have to ask the questions. And at the time that happened, I asked to meet somebody of high integrity that was living to help me through this. And they said, you don't need it. And I said, well, I'm sorry, I'm changing the rules. So we can change the rules, right?
Right.
Um, and then the other thing was, well, a question. I was thinking, what kind of question? Well, I didn't really trust the history of school. In school, how about you know, give me the history, the true history of humanity? And it took over 10 years, and there was 4 species that visited me over 10 years. There was, first of all, the reptilians, because these all 4 species had some really profound impact on humanity.
Right.
And although the reptilians were visiting me to try to control me, they actually awoken me, because when they approached me, it was a really interesting story. Where I was downstairs in another person's bedroom, and they'd had a lot of encounters where with this sort of reptilian sort of energy at that time. And when I slept there, this thing slid out of an ornament, and then it just stood up in front of me, and it had like a duffel coat, and it was just kind of shuffling its way towards me. The energy was absolutely blur, and it stunk. The whole thing was just horrible. It was trying to scare the crap out of me. So I sat up and I went, stop, you're not to come any closer. And it started to shuffle. It was kind of like one of those nightmares where you close your eyes and it's closer, and then
This
it's closer, and then
was a
it's on
reptilian.
my bed.
This was a
It
reptilian that
was
was coming up.
reptilian, yeah. But this is the first encounter that I had of these beings. This one woke me up. And although it was a horrible kind of a story, it woke me up to my power. So this was really important. So when it sat on my bed, it actually grabbed me around my head. I felt it, the whole thing was like very real to me. It tried to shove 2 pills in my mouth. I pierced my lips and I just went inwards and went, this is not my story. I'm not doing this. I'm out. This is it. This is not happening to me. I don't know how I'm going to get out. I remember thinking, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, but I'm getting out of this. And as soon as I made that will, that conscious will to say that I'm going to get out of it, it's like I didn't see all my chakras coming into one ball of light, but I did see this ball of light coming in between my sacral chakra and my heart chakra. And it just burst out of my chest. And when it burst out, it was like my frequency rose above the frequency of the being. And then it couldn't touch me because I was above it. I was in a higher frequency. It wasn't existing anymore. And then I ran outside, put my hands in the dirt with earth and just went, okay, we're going to have to go back in the bedroom and go to sleep. You know that? So I did. I went back in the bedroom and went to sleep because I had to prove that I was stronger than that energy that was coming at me. And it was so important for the next 3 different species that was going to meet me
Now,
coming up.
when you had the high frequency feeling, what did your body feel like? Did you feel heat, pressure, or whatever with the higher frequencies, Bobbie?
When that ball of light shot out of me, it was just like a race of, like, I erased everything. Like, it was like, it doesn't exist anymore. I know that I'm higher than it, but I can't remember at the time. I couldn't tell you honestly now what I actually bodily felt. I can't remember, to tell you the truth. I just remember what I was thinking.
Yeah. Now, why did you
Yeah.
go out and put your hands in the ground? Was that to ground yourself and get rid of
I
the
think, yeah, just a natural kind of an urge of, I had to get my hands into Mother Earth. It was so that I remembered where I was again. I think because I'd risen my level of awareness outside of the awareness of the lower frequencies of fear-based challenges that humans have. And so I ran outside to put my hands onto earth, and she could ground me. This is where you are safe. We still got you. Yeah, that sort of feeling.
Right. I've always heard that to ground yourself, you walk barefooted on ground. And as a kid,
Mm.
that's what I did a lot, besides having cardboard boxes to play with instead of computers. And I know you probably did the same thing. And
Yes.
I guess in New Zealand you grew up as a kid, or did you grow up as a kid in Australia?
No, New Zealand. Yeah. I moved here when I was in my 30s,
Okay.
early 30s. Yeah.
But you knew what grounding meant. That's amazing. I guess this natural, I guess what comes to you. I felt the
Yeah.
same way. I felt like I had intelligence put into me sometimes that I didn't know where'd that come from. I don't have it up here. It just
Yeah. Yeah.
feeds it to me sometimes, and I've had
That's it.
yeah, like in combat or like some emergency situation. It seems like something comes to you all of a sudden if you listen to it. And they always say if you listen, they say, well, God will speak to you, but the creator and the source is what I call it. But as you
Mm.
as you went along, now the Pleiadians you mentioned, and you said 3 other ETs beside the
Yeah.
reptilian. Now the reptilians, did they look typical like we see them today? Like I saw one.
That,
It
yeah.
looked like a cobra in the face.
Yeah. Well, this one was disguising itself, but I was meeting with a Cherokee elder that, remember I said that I was wanting to find someone of high integrity. That's a whole other story
Right.
of coming coincidences and crazy synchronicities to meet this Cherokee elder.
Yeah.
And she pulled me out of a crowd one year and then pulled me out of another crowd another year. Instead, she'd be working with me. She was sent by her elders to go find specific people she calls buffalo hearts,
Right.
which are souls straight from Pleiades, actually.
Yeah.
So this is one of the reasons why I know I'm straight from Pleiades. Although our souls have been in a lot more places than just staying in the one zone. We can like experience many, many different diverse things on our journey. Yeah.
Since I wrote a book and it's in the publisher's hands now, it's a Pleiadian and a human male. Now, what did the Pleiadians look like that you visualized?
Mm.
I could have showed
Yeah.
a picture, a cover of my book that I kind of visualized
Yeah.
a tall blonde lady.
Yes. Yeah. Very vivid blue eyes when they
Yes,
come to me as
right.
well. Yeah.
That's
Um,
right?
That's the norm, but they do come in all sorts of shapes and sizes and everything. But they do have this kind of tendency of looking, because if you can become beautiful, why not be beautiful? You know, it's like how they feel about themselves and the confidence that they hold, that they create that kind of avatar for themselves. There's just so much more to the Pleiadians though than those Nordic types bodies. Yeah.
So
Uh,
group
but
them
that's
Nordics.
like when they come to me.
You kind of group them in the Nordics and the Pleiadians. They kind of look alike. Is that what you're saying, Bobbie?
Yeah, well, they both of them have the blonde hair and the blue eyes and that sort of thing. There's so many species out there. It's absolutely incredible.
I heard that.
You know, and here we are trying to logify something which wants to compartmentalize everything and go, oh, that is that. But there's just so much diversity out there. If you look at all the bugs and that on this planet, that's how many, you know, more than that, trillions of different life forms that can be experienced. And that's where our imagination, understanding that there is way more to our potential that we can actually use, because our soul's been on so many different journeys throughout lifetime and lifetime. And can you imagine grabbing those pieces of gifts from those different journeys of those different lifetimes and utilizing it
Yeah.
and this lifetime to shift up everything? Can you imagine how powerful and expanded and adventurous this world would be if we actually used it to our own advantage? But at the moment, it's been hijacked by those draconians and more others to try to program us into their reality through a fear-based scenario.
The
So
rulers, the rulers,
that's
the
where we're
real
stepping out
rulers
of.
of this planet, right? Yeah, the behind the
Yeah.
scenes, dark shadow leaders of the world. I guess you're saying. Now, the other two ETs, I'm always interested in what people see as ETs and what they look like, because I saw several myself, and I never forget what they look like. Now, the other two ETs, were they the Greys, Bobbie?
No, no, they weren't. No. The greys come across to me as almost like a future human. There's more to them than meets the eye. It's kind of like the humans that lost themselves went into more of a there's different types, and there's something more to do with them. But
Yeah,
the ones that visited me to do with our history, our actual history, was the first the reptilians, the Pleiadians, and then I had the Anunnaki, and then the Lyrans, or the Lyrans, yeah, which were part of the vegans, and the Lyrans, which were the creator beings in this universe. So
right.
they all have this, and their story kind of all gelled together towards the end there. But it's a blooming long story.
Now, what did the Anunnaki look like? Were they tall and
Oh my God, that was huge, that story, that when they came into my reality. Uh, yeah, I have done a video on this called 444 Angels, because there was messengers, because there was a whole heap of different, anyway,
yeah,
other beings. Anyway, let's skip, because I have to make sure that I'm really focused here. When they came, first of all, I started to see 444 everywhere. Like, I'm talking like 5 or 6 signs on the way to dropping off my girls to their dads, because we'd split up. And when I came back, I'm like, oh, something's happening, because you don't get to see 444 like that everywhere and every few minutes. It's ridiculous. Um, and then that night, I woke up at 2 a.m. in the morning and saw outside of my bedroom window a orange ball of light with kind of like a disc-shaped light around the outside, kind of like it was pretending to be a UFO, or it's a light that was shaped into a UFO sort of a shape. And it was hovering in my tree. And I thought, oh, another vision, because I see so much. Okay, that's great. There's a UFO outside. Go back to sleep. Next morning, I woke up, and on my phone, I sent a text, but I didn't realize, the text just popped up to me again, and it said they have arrived. And at the same time, I saw on my Facebook someone else say, did anyone else see that orange UFO last night? And I'm like, okay, well, this is for real now. This isn't me stepping into another frequency. This is something that's grounded in this reality. Okay, so that's happened. Now, when they said they arrived, it reminded me of about a decade ago or more, when I sat up in bed and these four angelic angels smashed through my window, and this was like a massive implosion, and they galloped around my room on horseback, on white horses. There was four of them. I didn't know anything about the biblical white horses or any of that sort of stuff, knew nothing of any of that. But in my head was a band full of angels is coming after you. And then I said something subliminally, and my partner or husband at the time said, I'd said, they're coming soon, not just yet. I've been waiting for this one. Any case, so then now come back forward to these Anunnakis coming in. That's what went through my head. Oh my God, they've arrived. And also at the same time, I was taken to this president that was in a coma that was supposed to die when these beings are supposed to have arrived. And I thought he's going to die, and he did. He actually did. On my partner and my ex-husband and my wedding anniversary. So it's just all these weird coincidences, right? It's not even hard to explain them all because there's so many. The very next night after the UFO, though, I woke up and I saw four massive beings in my room. Luckily, I had a really tall, like 100-year-old house that had one of those really tall ceilings, because these things were at least, I don't know, 9 foot. I don't know exactly how many feet, but they were big. They were really big. And they didn't show their faces, but they had cloaks over them, like a cloak. And I could see their hair was black, and it was kind of wavy and curly, going down, long down. Anyway, they were right next to me on my bed, and I sat up, and it was like, I know if I turn on a light, I can slip back into beta, because I'm in alpha state now. If I slip back into beta, they'll disappear. And it's almost like they had this mind game with me, where I actually had a light right next to my bed. I could have turned it on, but I literally did not remember that. It's like they were testing me to go through them. I had to be strong enough to go through them to get to the light on the other side of them that was next to the door. So I sat up and went, okay, I can do this. And I just went, excuse me, as I'm walking past and flicked on this light, and poof, they're gone. I'm like, oh my God, what the hell just happened, you know? But they kept on visiting me afterwards. And coming back to that question about being, where you can't move, when they would take me, they said their power was way more immense than what my little brain could handle in this reality. So they used to put me in a stasis so that I wouldn't be afraid, and so they would kind of share things with me subliminally that were to come out later on in my life to help guide, because they knew that they were part of the history of pulling humanity into, because we'd lost our connection, our telepathic universal language to everything and connection to everything. We had to learn how to speak. We had to learn how to live on Earth, not with Earth. So they brought in the farming, they brought in the languages, they brought in the maths, they brought in science, they brought in all that was outside of us, so that we could still live and learn all about outside of us, because that's literally what humanity's journey was. We had learned through the Atlantis Lemuria age all about our right hemisphere, our connection to source energy, and all of that sort of stuff. And then we had to break it down and learn all about our logical side. And so we went on another massive journey, and that's why the witches and all that were persecuted, because the masculine side was going to take over, which is all to do with looking outside ourselves for our reality. So they taught us that, and then they realized when they came back to watch all of this evolve, humanity is evolving, that it was through humanity evolving that they could learn, because they needed to learn how to bring in the intuition side more, in connection to source energy and their inner work and all that sort of stuff. So when we start to make friends with our two hemispheres, which are the complete opposite, they also learn this huge lesson as well. And so they came to realize that they were here to help the evolution of humanity step into, and to let us do it, let us become it, and let the things evolve instead of, putting their finger in and
So, Bobbie,
manipulating what they did before.
you're saying the Anunnaki were actually our friends, and they helped us develop a whole new, communication pattern, and we knew telepathy before that. Who who was more? I guess that was 60,000 years ago. Could I guess?
Gosh, I don't know how many, but it was eons. They just tell me eons. I don't have the numbers because they keep bringing me through to time doesn't exist. And I'm like, la la la. Yeah.
And
It does my head in. So I just go eons.
no time or age is what they tell me, and what an ET told me. Now you're fascinating because here's the thing: I was told by Linda Moulton Hall one time, and you know her; she's a big investigator, probably one of the tops in UFOs and ETs. And she told me one time after hearing my stories that I had numerous stories like you. That you had things happen one after another, and they kept
One
going.
after another, just constantly. I have so many stories. It's crazy.
And it's harder for people to, I guess, wrap their minds around when you have so many experiences.
Mm,
And it's harder to convince people that yes, it can happen, in multitudes of ways. And throughout the years,
yeah.
with me at 13, and I still had these little synchronicities and things going on the last couple of years. And just 2 or 3 years ago, they were in my house. I had a reptilian, and I had a Michelin man. I don't know if you ever heard of that ET. That's another one. Yeah. So maybe it's a suit. It's a tall white in a suit. It's kind of got the Michelin man, rolls of whatever it looks like rolls of fat, whatever. A little baby, the little rolls of fat on her arms
Yeah.
and legs. But uh, but your stories. That's why I'm sitting here and I'm fascinated because you have details of things just happening one after the other, and I want you to continue. I don't want to throw you off.
Yeah.
Tell us,
Yeah.
where did the Pleiadians come in? You told us about the
The
Anunnaki.
Pleiadians were before the Anunnaki. So when reptilians came and then the Pleiadians came, almost like balancing each other out. Excuse my throat. So the Pleiadians like to first come in dreams. They like to be in dreams, and they can come in physical form, obviously. But when they met me anyway, they wanted to come through in the dream world, and then they moved from there. Anyway, so one of the first incidences that was really profound with Pleiadians, other than when I was 11, I had a dream of, and it's kind of when an ET comes into my dream world, they interrupt it. They literally, like I'm dreaming something, and then they're interrupting it. But this Pleiadian with the blonde hair and the great big beautiful physical
Yeah.
body, and like, let's dance. And I'm like, oh, awesome.
Oh,
I
I
don't mind
want to go.
dancing with
I want to
you.
go. I want to
You're
go with
pretty
you.
special.
Yeah.
You had the very vivid blue eyes. So when he started dancing with me, then all of a sudden we stayed still. And this was really weird what happened next. So he put his forehead on my forehead. And apparently this is how they connect, and they talk and they tap into each other. So he put his forehead on my forehead and he started to chant. It started with Ra, and then it was all these different syllables like Ra, Mo. I don't know what the others were anymore. I just remember Ra. And I found out Ra is to do with the sun coming through our soul,
Mhm.
the soul energy to come onto earth. So Ra was the first one. And then as he's chanting, then he turned around. As he's chanting, my body starts to vibrate. So he's chanting this really low sound. He turns his head and he starts to speak. It's kind of like between Egyptian and Celtic kind of speaking.
That's
It's the
what.
only way I can call it for Pleiadian words. And then he turned around and he did this, I think, 5 times. I have all this written down because they told me to write all this stuff down. But in any case, So he put his forehead on my forehead again over 5 times. And as that was happening, I was awakening. I was waking up for real in my room. My body was completely vibrating. And then I got the message that before I was born, I asked my pupil, which was him, someone I was teaching, to help me awaken, but I had to raise my level of awareness to a certain consciousness before he could come in and then help me awaken into a higher frequency from that.
Right.
So that was one of the bigger, profound. Then I realized, okay, I'm working with the Pleiadians now. I'm not working with the, being strong enough to get out of the whole reptilian game. We're working with the Pleiadians, and that all started to progress from there. Yeah.
Yeah. When these things happen, you had your husband at the time.
That was after I left him, but yeah.
That was after okay, but my wife was, I guess she was paralyzed or put to sleep whenever I had some activities going on,
Can
and
happen, yeah.
they do that.
They do that, yes. And they did that with my ex-husband when I was with him to give me messages, because I'd see like rocks falling at me. And I'm like, well, what the heck does that even mean? Like, come on, guys,
Yeah.
rocks falling at me and I'm trying to dodge these rocks. And they're like, what? And then my partner, who was asleep, just turned around and started speaking. Oh, we're clearing the blocks to show you the path, or something like that. And he can't remember anything of what he said, but he answered my question. So
what about your three kids?
that's crazy. It
How,
gets crazy
how about
weird.
your kids? Were they ever, I guess, visited by these ETs, Bobbie?
Sorry.
Your three kids, have they ever been visited by these ETs?
Yeah, my youngest, who wants to ignore it at the moment because she's, teenager, and I don't want to know about it anymore, but she was a lot. Um, I saw my I saw my children, because I can see into different frequencies. When my first two were born, I saw them floating around, and they would come back, like the astral travel out of their bodies to come next to the mother. So I actually saw them coming towards me and hugging me as an astral body. And then you'd wake up going, where are they? Like freaking out.
Yeah.
But my youngest one was different. She never did that. I saw her before she was born. So I was still pregnant with her, and she's standing beside my bed holding a gift. And I didn't feel her in me at all until the last moments. She didn't need to come into, her soul didn't need to enter the body. The body was growing in me until the last moments. She was off gallivanting around helping out other souls. And she's a different soul, a completely different soul.
Okay, so
She was actually, when she was 6 months, the Cherokee elder that met me for the first time, I was feeding her, and the Cherokee elder come up and said to me, she's going to be a great leader. But she doesn't want to know about that at the moment because,
yeah, okay, Bobbie,
she's like, I just want to fit into this world at the moment. That's where her game is right now. Yeah.
you're saying that your youngest daughter, she kind of stayed out and she gallivanted around and visited other people in an angelic form. And and you said there is no particular time that a soul takes over a body of a baby.
Body. Yeah, when you're actually pregnant, it's depending on the soul's level of maturity, whether they can handle the shifts, the changes, how fast they can handle the changes. So the more mature you are, the more you can handle shifts and changes. Although sometimes I think that she should have actually come into me a few months prior, because she's still kind of 1 foot in and 1 foot out of this world. Like, do I really like this? That sort of feeling about it. But the other child, my middle one, is extremely grounded and grounds us both, because she's a really easygoing. They would put ADHD kids next to her because she'd just chill them out, just chillax. She's just got that essence about her.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah, everything happens for a purpose.
Well, let's talk about this thing about when the soul or the spirit takes hold of I guess we can call it the flesh or the meat suit or human body. And when they do, are they committed to staying with that human body until it passes, or can they leave that body anytime they want, Bobbie?
So after they're actually born and they're on their life, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, well, sometimes there's walk-ins. So there are some times where a soul will just turn around and go, I don't want to exist in this story anymore. And so they will leave. If the actual story needs to keep evolving on this world, and another walk-in might come in and take over the body, souls can do that for sure.
Mm.
I've actually had that experience happen with somebody that I know. I mean, the reason why I have so many stories is because I live half in this world and half in the next world anyway. So that's the reason why a lot of this happens. The
Right.
more that we become feeling based, that's why, because I'm so strongly empathic and can feel so much, you become more expansive in your reality. And every human here, when they start to acknowledge their feelings, can start to learn to expand their reality out to way more. I'm here to help people, guide them into creating a new earth. So that I've actually been taken to a new earth scenario, what our potential can be like. Yes, souls can come in and out of bodies, but it's usually they will stay all the way to the end. It's not,
Yeah, you just
it's one of those things.
Bobbie, you just
There's
mentioned
any possibility can happen.
the New Earth. I'll read this off. In 2004, Bobbie has up till then had many visions, but the one that stood out was going to sleep and waking up in a potential Earth that seemed so real. Her mind was completely still and living in the moment. This was so peaceful, so harmonious, and harmonizing or whatever, and freeing. And while she was there, she contacted telepathically by friends who teleported to her front door, as that was the only way to get her home. Teleporting, and
To
also,
my home. My home was on a high mountain, and that frequency, yeah.
yeah, could you explain that new Earth, Bobbie, and how
Yeah.
is like being in heaven, basically? Is that what a lot of people dream of?
Um, well, we're all at the moment we're learning to bring that utopia here on Earth. This is why so many of us are born from these higher frequencies, so that we can remember the higher frequencies. And then when we remember them, we're learning to ground them through love of ourselves, and then love of the outside world, love of everything. Love's what's going to glue this together, because we start to realize it's actually who we are, the essence of who we are. But in this dream, I went to sleep, I woke up in another place, and I knew it was still my home, but it was so real. But the biggest thing was that my mind was completely still, like still. It was just clarity. It was like no other monkey mind chatter, nothing in it other than presentness, really strong presentness and clarity. And it's through that clarity that you can, oh yeah, I wanted, some friends were contacting me telepathically. They're like, can we come over? I'm like, yeah, sure, you can come over. And they already know that you're free, that you know who's around, everything about what's happening. They already know, because the feeling that you get is all encompassing. It's not like language, where language is one word after another and you have to kind of logify it. Feeling, it means you know exactly what's happening with that person, integrity wise. And so they knew that they could come, and it was all safe. And if it wasn't, that I was busy, they would feel that too. So then they just teleported on my front door, and we went for a walk around the veranda. There was massive mountains in the background. It felt like you could converse with whatever. Everything was part of you, and you were part of everything. Next to me was like a tree where the leaves went all the way around and touched the ground. And that, I didn't realize it then, because it wasn't until decades later that I actually had an experience of coming into oneness, because I wanted to experience what that feeling felt like. but it was like a Taurus energy. And it wasn't until I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go back, that I got sucked back into this tree, which was like this Taurus energy, come back to myself.
Mhm.
I'm like, oh my God, I'll never forget that. And I never have, because of the stillness that happened in that moment. Then I had a compass. I knew where I was going. This is where if we find this within ourselves, if humanity finds this stillness within themselves, they are already stepping into these utopic places where we don't need any outside force controlling us. Phones are obsolete because we're telepathic. Everything is obsolete because we have the power within us. All of that that's been created outside of us is just a mere reflection of what already exists within us. We are that power. It's just that we've given that power away to some other being, saying because we don't want to take responsibility for it. But the responsibility is already fallen away when you step into that love vibration, because you realize that everything is you and you are everything. So you become one. It's a whole different story, and it can't be retained in the logical brain. The logical brain has to learn it, but it hasn't learnt it because we've been brought up only through, looking outside of ourselves for looking good.
Well, you went to this really nice place, and you said that these other people teleported to that location also. Now, when I think of teleporting, I think of Star Trek and things of that nature.
Yeah.
And but
Loves.
are you kind of like referring to like astral projection, like we do like sometimes in our sleep? And you mentioned a vivid dream. Is that the same as a lucid dream? I've had some very lucid dreams where I'm actually talking to these aliens, except they're not talking my language, but then they start telepathically telling me what I'm to do,
Mm.
supposed to move or walk.
Yeah, it would be vivid lucid is pretty much the same thing, because it's lucid is when you know that you are dreaming and you know you can control the dream, right? Where vivid is like, oh my God, I'm in another reality. Holy crap. And it's like, I'm still in this reality. I can't completely control it because I'm going with the flow of where this experience is taking me to teach me a lesson in that moment. That's how I see it anyway.
Right. Do you teach people how to astral project, Bobbie?
Yeah, I have done a few classes on that. The actual teleportation needs for someone, for a soul, to know how to remote view first, because we want to know where we're going before we teleport there, right? You don't want to be, and it's more of an inside job of remote viewing, seeing where you're going, and then, okay, everything's good to go there. Kind of like what those people tapped into me telepathically. They're kind of like remote viewing themselves into my mind. Is everything good for us to come and visit you? Yes, but can you please, be outside, like come to my door, that sort of thing. Don't appear in my house. Like I have that much control that they know exactly through that feeling that they were to appear outside my door, so it didn't frighten me because I was in this new place having a new experience. So we have to have enough assertiveness to be able to, and boundaries of what we actually need in those higher frequencies. That has to come up in the levels of consciousness with us, that the boundaries, yeah,
So on
as well, because we're protecting our own right for who we are, and that respect will be reciprocated by all others that come into our reality as well then.
Can you do this yourself, astral project, or go to these places on your own, like through meditation? I can't do that. I can't rest, I guess, or relax enough for meditation. I talked to a couple of guests here last couple of weeks, and I want to have those lucid dreams again and find out what's really going on. I'm curious of why they were kind of contacting me and what did they want. They never showed me any. I saw some technology, how they erase your memory with a tube
Yeah.
6 7 inches long, a bright white light that goes into your eyes, and they can erase your memory. I don't know who's doing that. It could be humanoids. It could be, it could be the ET.
Yeah.
But I've seen that technology, and I also saw the technology how they take the fertilization from a man. I've seen
Mm.
but and I also know that they have these like metal beds. I've been on a couple of those. And I've seen, you know, spaceships or what you call UFOs. I call this one a Noah's Ark because it was huge, and it was all metallic inside the walls and everything. And there wasn't any control knobs or anything, just little protrusions coming out from the metal wall that they put their hands on, and they'd control things that way. But
Mm.
that was a lucid, those are lucid dreams that I'm familiar with, what you're talking about. You mentioned empath. Uh, now, you have to be empathic also to kind of take these travels or be an astral. What is all the ingredients of making one prepare themselves to
Mm.
project uh, about
Mm.
what?
Well, one of the biggest things that they taught me is how to, first of all, we need to be able to control that logical mind that's been kind of navigating a whole reality, because it only looks outside itself. And when it does that, it's seeking for a leader to tell it how to feel. And so we end up not really acknowledging our feelings and how we feel, and then stepping into our reality from that point of view. So first of all, they were teaching me how to control the mind, and then we went from there to. It's really interesting. Once you get to know that, you can bring in your imagination for your own benefit. Then you can use that. Empathy and being empathic is something that it's kind of like we do what we call the shadow work. Humanity needs to do the shadow work first. We
Right.
need to come back into a feeling-based person of what we really want to do, coming from our heart space and moving forward. And that entails looking at our emotions and our feelings and everything. And most people don't want to do that. So this is where you can't jump, you can't like escape that. You have to look and feel into that, because otherwise when you go, because the soul is love vibration in itself, which is encapsulating everything, to tell you the honest truth. But if we want to see it as a separate entity, because that's what the logical mind does, then we can bring it through as just love, grounding more love into our body and loving who we are, loving our reality. Then we are then also expanding our awareness into no fear game. And no fear game means that we become more empathic, we become more feeling based people. So we're spreading ourselves into, okay, now I can tap into Mother Earth and I'm not afraid of things, because the fear is already dropped, because you're coming from a love scenario. You're not coming from, oh my God, I hope this doesn't happen. Oh my God, these people are going to be in control of me. It's more of a, well, if someone has control over you, you have a lack within yourself, because the soul itself is love going on a journey, and everyone's is. We all start from the same point of existence in that respect. So when it matches with somebody that you feel is more powerful than you, who is love as well, then you're saying that your lack is allowing them to encapsulate you. In other words, their fear can overrule your love for yourself and who you are. That's the power. But when you see them as, hang on a sec, you're the same frequency, you're still love going on a journey. It's just that you're projecting your crap onto me because you're in lack yourself. But I can feel that love within myself. So now you're in equal standing. Even if you try to control me, there will always be another way out. Just like when the reptilian tried to attack me, or the draconian tried to attack me, there was always, always another way out, because there is infinite possibilities for the soul to go on a journey. So you can go on trillions of different journeys out there, right? And instead of just holding this one journey in your head of, that person's more powerful than me, oh my God, I have to do exactly what they say, and I am powerless. To all the ETs that had done things to people and all of that sort of stuff, it's only because they saw that we were in a vulnerable position of giving away our power. Like, we do have more power than what we're being given. So we're not really as feeble as all of that. When we start to recognize that we're all just source energies of all the love that's gone into trillions of fractions of different avatars and different experiences to have, and then comes back into this ball of energy again of love and expands back out again. It's this complete beautiful pulse of life. That's exactly what I saw when I actually met oneness.
I feel empathic, but Bobbie, sometimes when I'm empathic, I feel everybody's pain around me, and you absorb that. How do you protect yourself from absorbing all that pain, making a negative feeling within yourself from being empath, Bobbie? What's it's
Then to become the observer of it. Because when you see it from above situation of, I see now what that person's going through, it's only you're meeting them because you have that frequency within you of that same lack. And so you allow that to become absorbed into you. But if you had already healed it within yourself, you would see it for what it is. You'll either walk away from them and let them ride their own story out, or you will say, I'm coming from above, and then I'm helping you if you want to be helped. But if you don't want to be helped, then go on your own path. But when you are empathic and you're meeting them at the same game that you've still got that lack in, then it will easily become yours as well, because you're allowing it to, you're not seeing yourself as above it, like the story of, well, that person has gone through that tragedy. I see them for where their lack is now. I can see it that you don't, when you're in a higher frequency, you don't feel it like that anymore. You have clarity of vision, and you can see the blessing in it. You can see the blessing in their lack of what they're still to learn, because you've learned it. I'm trying to explain it from a point of view. I've been there before. And then when you've healed as much as you can within yourself, then you will end up being able to just see, not allow their energy to encroach in on you.
that
Yeah.
sounds
Hard to
that's a good
explain.
explanation. I like that. I really do. Now, past lives. You mentioned this. The I guess it was the Pleiadians that took you, on a guide and here on Earth, and they showed you past lives. Now, as of about a year ago, I didn't believe too much in past lives until scientists said that the 80% of our DNA is actually kind of like a computer memory stick. It's a memory of our past lives and what we've been through as a human, as us as a person through our lineage. I guess our relatives and our way past human existence. Now I believe in past lives because we are recycled and we are more or less reincarnated. Bobbie, what can you tell us about past lives and
Yeah.
reincarnation? What's the
So
difference?
I kind of split it into two sectors.
Mhm.
So we have the body's past life with the DNA and everything in it. We've got grandmothers and grandparents and our ancient people that our body has gone, been born and born and born and born through, and you can go into that family bloodline and maybe, but there's the soul is another whole other thing. So the soul has gone into the journey, into the avatar, and experienced it could jump from one life in 1800 and then jump to another life in 2045. It can jump all over the show. There's no time where the soul will, it's not like a linear thing. It's just that our logical mind likes to put things in linear story because that was its job. That's its job, to actually keep us in a linear story so we can have this adventure of birth to death. But so you can actually have your DNA with issues in it that you can clear from your past, your grandmother's grandmother that had an issue. You can go in and clear that because it's been handed down from body to body to body to body, the emotional, the DNA and all of that sort of stuff has been handed down. So you have a specific personality, you have a specific traits and all of that. Or that person went through trauma, carried on through the baby starts to pick up the same trauma because it's held in the body and that sort of thing. So that's one lineage where it's the body, and then you have the soul, which is another lineage, which is another line of existence where, say for instance, myself, I've come straight from higher dimensions. My soul went into my family bloodline, which has held a lot of DNA problems or karmic problems from being witches that had a lot of power, that was repressed and, you know, persecuted. So here I am coming into a body that's decided to from places. I can literally remember being energetically born here. Like, I'm like, yeah, this is going to be fun. And then I get part way and go, I don't know if I can handle this energy. I'm reversing it. I don't want to do this. And was born with the umbilical cord wrapped around my neck a few times. I'm like, yeah, I think I'll just cut myself before I get into this lower energy, because it was so dense, more than what I expected, my soul expected. It can be quite daunting. So there's two sides to that story. Eventually, when you come to source energy, it's all oneness, but yeah, it's just really hard to explain some of this stuff that comes that my guides come through me, because half of this I'm half channeling at the moment when I'm talking to you. They're giving me this information as well.
What about,
so yeah,
I guess reincarnation is something that we come back to. Some people say, well, if you didn't gain enough spiritual currency to get past certain levels of dimensions, then the first level dimension, you'll be reincarnated. You don't have any choice. Second level is that you've done okay as far as your spiritual currency. You have a lot to spend, and because you've been kind, forgiving, and everything else, and then you kind of get a choice on the second level. And the third level, you are actually an angelic type of person who you were here on earth as a kind of an angelic angel, and you hit that third I guess section, whatever, and you go straight to the creator or to the source of energy, in which we call God, in which I call source or creator. And an interesting story just popped up. I told this in the show the other night. There's a couple of scientists, and these were young scientists, who come up with some theories, and actually they've developed this in front of a lot of other scientists. They said that black holes, they are part of creation. They actually create. They reincarnate, I guess you can say, planets and everything. And you mentioned something about past lives and about there is no time. Everything's present, past, and future all in one place. Now, what is that? That tells me we are in a matrix. I wanted to ask you that question, Bobbie. Do you think that this all mixes into being a matrix?
Such big questions, right?
Uh, There's so much talk about that.
There is, and it does depend on what side of the coin, like logical side, are you talking about? If you talk about logical side, you could say it's a matrix. If you talk about a spiritual side, it's oneness. It's just oneness going on this massive, beautiful journey of exploring different avatars and so forth. Or bodies. When I say avatars, I mean bodies. So to answer your question, they took me on a dream. I'll say a dream because then at least it kind of gives a little bit more. Where I stepped through a portal and I was at a beach. And in that beach, I saw, I went through this portal with a male friend of mine, just a friend. And as we're walking down the beach, there was stars in the sky, and when I looked at the stars, they turned into fish and they started falling into the ocean. And I'm like, oh my God, we're in a story within a story. So we're in a story within a story. This is really kind of out there. And then the guy lied on the beach and he said, I'm going back to Earth to keep the story going. And I said to him, okay, but this time you have to let me lead. And he's like, why? And I said, because I have the imagination. I'm the one that should be leading. And so if you want to call it a matrix, there is this kind of natural, God-given love spelled matrix, you could say, that humanity is within. Natural, we're consuming and creating all the time. Everything is. Then there would be the Matrix, so to speak, that you would have seen on the movie, The Matrix, where someone has put a spell kind of thing over humanity and then told us that we are small, we are limited, we should do as they tell us. We don't know how to take our own responsibility or our reins for our life, and that sort of thing has been pulled over us. So we're living in a story within a story, and it's time to break the spell. But if I take it from the journey that I had with oneness, which might give you even more insight, when I went on this journey through to oneness, I become expansive more and more and more. I became everything. And the only way that I could handle becoming everyone that I knew in my reality, the town, was to become above it. So every time I become above it, I become the city. And then it was too much. So I become above it, become the planet. And oh my God, I'm the planet. But now I have to become above that because it's too much to handle for my logical brain. So I become more and more and more and more. And eventually this is what happened to me when I returned back to oneness.
Mhm.
I become so vast that I become a Taurus energy. And I saw this huge donut shaped energy. Actually, it was going this way in my vision. It was going in and then out. And what it showed me was that humanity's consciousness, and there's a different story for every consciousness, but humanity's consciousness was just a ball of light, source love itself, wanting to say, I'm going to go on this beautiful journey through humanity's consciousness. Starts to evolve into the Atlantis Lemuria age. This is one segment of it. There's been many others. We're not talking about those, just what's just happened so that we can get an understanding. So we ended up going through this beautiful portal of experiencing everything in the Atlantis Lemuria age of the feminine side. I brought it up before. Then there come a time when we had to learn all about our logical outside world because we wanted to expand our love into a physical world. And so that physical world meant that we needed to learn all about our outside reality. So through that, that's when the witches and the wizards were all persecuted. Anything that had anything to do with connection to Mother Earth was persecuted. And the masculine started to, that's when the reptilians and the draconians started to come in. Oh, we can control them now because they are looking. We no longer had the connection to our soul's understanding. We had to go through our logical understanding, and logic is seeking the guidance of our imagination and our soul's awareness to be able to shift the story, because it can't shift the story. So in doing that, it needs somebody else to tell it. So that's when these leaders came in and went, we'll tell you, we're coming from lack as well. And so we will tell you what to do. And it pulled us into this horrible kind of scenario of consumerism. Now, I actually went on this journey just before the big CV hit, 2020 in February, I think it was, somewhere around there. And they showed me Earth entering the funnel again, the quickening inside the actual donut shape. So we were coming back, we were pulling back into returning back to love. So when that happens, it changes everything where more vibrations are going to hit Earth of love scenarios, but it's going to also awaken us to everything that is out of balance. So it looks like everything is gone crazy out there, because the only way that you can find your inner peace is from within. It's literally we are being sent home. And funnily enough, in reflection, that's what happened. The world was sent home. We're locked down.
We're going from 3D to 5D, right? Is that what?
Yeah, so it's actually a bit different. It's actually infusing more love into the 3D. So we're expanding now. We know all about the 5D and upwards and all that etheric kind of a world from the Atlantis Lemuria age. We're starting to bring that back in. And we also know now about our physical world. So what we're doing is we're learning to infuse more love into the physical world. So we're actually expanding. We're not going to leave 3D, because then what's the point, right? We need to still have this beautiful story that we're going on from a linear point of view, but we're expanding it into bringing in the 5D, the 6D, the 7D, the 4D as well, you know, which is dream worlds and no time existing. So all of that is part of our journey of returning back home, and then going, okay, when we come back to the point of love, what do we want to do? We now know we're empowered. We can bring in the telepathic, telekinetic, and all that sort of stuff, those beautiful gifts. Now, what do we do with them? What do we want to experience? We're learning to ground utopia on Earth, and this reality that has been created from source energy in itself. But when you really look at it, it's just lines of energy going on adventures through different avatars and different experiences, many trillions of them.
Well, a lot of scientists.
Godzillions. I call it godzillions.
Yeah, that's a big number. That's a big number. But no,
sorry, obviously they wanted me to pull that through, so I
good.
It through.
But a lot of scientists are saying in a matrix, nothing is real. There is no solid. Like I'm touching my desk right now. It's not solid. We just feel solid.
That's right. When you come from a esoteric point of view, nothing is solid. So when you match the vibrational energy of that space, you could become it. It can become you, and so you know how to handle that. But logically, it's held in place. Logically, we have that half of the brain for a purpose, to hold it in a place as a stable something, so that we can't put our finger through it, because we wanted to have a linear story where we are separated from everything. Source energy knows how to have the etheric story. It wants to dive deeper into the lineal story to have an experience of separation further. We've got it all backwards.
Yeah. I wrote getting into I'm going to hit you with a few things before we cut loose here. But I wrote a newspaper article about people were afraid that the ETs, the aliens, were going to come here and attack Earth, because there's been so many sightings of UFOs nowadays. Like you said, kind of like that funnel, everything's speeding up through that funnel time. And a lot of people are afraid that they're going to attack. Now, you met quite a few of these ETs. There's some dangerous ones and there's some good ones. You know, reptilians are supposed to probably be bad, without a doubt. Now, do we have anything to be afraid of, Bobbie, with these ETs? And can you kind of soothe people's minds about this, that aliens are not going to attack us and destroy us? Could you tell us a little bit about that, Bobbie?
Well, if you look at how humanity's been programmed, we've been programmed to fear something outside of ourselves, so it can be used against us. It's a controlling mechanism. So we've been programmed to fear things. But when this is why they keep bringing us back to taking responsibility of one's feelings, because our actual evolution that we're going on is an evolution of finding that we are source energy, that we are mini godlike, that we are just the same as everything else out there is. Everything is. It's not that you're anything more special than anyone else. It's that everything is God going on a journey. So it's source energy, whatever you want to call it, prime creator. Doesn't really matter what word you use. But the thing is, you're talking about a fear that's been programmed over humanity taking over. And then because you're the creator of your reality, if you start to only focus in on, oh my God, that's going to happen, you will bet your boots you'll start to bring it in on your reality, that allowing those sort of beings to come in and dictate to you who they are, because you haven't done the inner work of, oh my God, they're just as powerful as me. I'm just as powerful as all of those other beings that I've met. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to get the messages from them. I wouldn't be able to understand where they're coming from. When that happens, you realize it's only our fear that's bringing in the problem. When we eradicate that and we start to step into, no, there's nothing more powerful than me, you will start expanding your horizon, expanding your awareness out of the matrix that they've pulled you into, because they've pulled you in through fear, right? So you're expanding out of their matrix. They can go do what they like with their fear-based matrix over there. I'm focusing in on creating the reality that I want. And that comes in with every step that I take is taken from the point of view of love from myself. And that means that everything that you do is only going to bring in more love. It's a hard concept to understand when you've only been playing the fear game, because you're stepping into an unknown quantity here, not realizing that it can even exist. It's only through my mouth and, the channeling of these beings that we're trying to explain that this is something that you need to take responsibility for in your own right. You are the creator from your own point of view out. So what are you going to create? What are you going to imagine into your next story? You have to do it. You have to do the work yourself. Yes, you can follow that regime of being in fear and afraid. And for sure, that's how they draw you in. But that means you're saying that they're more powerful than you. There's nothing out there that's more powerful than you. We are all energy going on a journey, just energy going on a journey. So choose love.
Yeah.
That's the only way I can
I
put
guess
it.
they've also said that reptilians, they live off of our fear. I guess they can sense our
They do.
they live off that fear energy.
Because, yeah, they're actually in lack themselves. They're actually wanting to control everything outside themselves because they can't control their inner world. So if they have as many people as they can that they can control, they feel all big and mighty, right? But they can't control anything within themselves. So as soon as we turn around, stop being a victim to their persecution, we start to turn around and create what we want. They're like, well, hang on a sec, aren't you supposed to be buying from my shop and my wares, and so I can actually control you? No, we're starting to tap into, remember, infinite possibilities are at our disposal. We keep forgetting that. We keep on zoning in on their game and saying that they have the monopoly. They do not have the monopoly. They never had the monopoly. We gave them the monopoly.
Right. That's what's going on today. I know I have to ask you this question and get involved in what's going on today. A lot of people, I see them right on Facebook. They said, "How did you feel today?" There's so much energy that's going on that people feel exhausted. They feel weak. I even got headachy sometimes, and I don't normally get headaches. And I feel that there is some sort of energy or change
Yeah.
or some kind
Very.
of, I guess, we're starting over again. There's a reset that's going on.
There's a reset, yeah, and that's what I saw with humanity going into that vortex and coming back to a reset, and then we take all of our understanding from the point of view of love and change it up. A story that might help that the Pleiadians gave me, because I asked about our existence and what it is, and they're like, well, we can only show you in a kind of a 3D way. They showed me, and this might help a little bit, they showed me just white light, and they said, here's this, imagine white light where there's this being that's in this white light, and that is everything, like everything. Now, then they show me him covering his leg with a blanket, and then they pinpricked the blanket, and they said, if source energy covers parts of itself, and then pinpricks it, when you look up to the stars, those stars are those pinpricked holes. So when source energy wants to change something, it will shift it through the sun. So the sun will emit a different frequency.
Yeah.
And when it emits this love frequency, it's going to shatter everything that's not in balance. And when humanity hasn't been in balance, we've been really out of balance, it's really going to start to make things look crazy until we come back into balance within ourselves. So that just might help with understanding that when you're getting headaches and you're feeling tired and all of that, there's a lot of work going on here of putting things back into balance and a lot more high love frequency coming at us. to shatter the illusion of fear, shatter the illusion of all of that. Because anything that is fear-based is coming from a lack of the wholeness of self, which is love.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
talk about the sun activity. It's weird. They take pictures of it and videos of it. It is kind of weird. It's going on, like you just said. It's coming through the sun, and we're getting this energy and a change of energy or a reset. I think that a lot of
And
times,
the central galaxy as well. There's a central galaxy sun too. That's, yeah, anyway. But yeah, sun is more important for our actual solar system. So all of the planets are going through changes. It's not just Earth, and we're not responsible for those changes. They're trying to put that guilt. Humanity's been held in captivity of guilt for so long, and they love using guilt over humanity. But if you actually looked at every single planet's going through changes because of this new energy that's coming through.
did you say
Yeah.
it's a battle between good and evil right now? Is there evil here on this planet? And are the reptilians part of that evil that's trying to do harm to us or make us think weirdly or angrily and fight wars? We're in turmoil now. We need to get to a peaceful place. Is this all the plan? Are we going to come out of this before long and everything will be a reset and we'll be happier? Let's say
It's,
happier, no, not real
yeah.
happier, Bobbie.
There is a level of responsibility that we each individually have to take of doing the work, the inner work for ourselves. Like we're all like expecting everything to just go ding and everything's great. It's going to be easier for those that are going through it now because so many of us did do the work years ago and understood it. And so now there's like a collective of people, of humans that have been, star beings or witches or whatever, they have understood the magic of all this that's going on. So they're holding a higher vibration and they are placed around the earth in all different places, like different countries, and that specifically to hold a literal matrix pattern around of light being shone on humanity. So it is actually easier for you, but you're still going to have to be compared to what we've gone through, because we're the ones that had the scythe and freaking will chop through the branches first to find the path. But still you have to there's an ounce of responsibility for how are you thinking? What are you actually saying to yourself? When you say crap to yourself, you're actually saying that to source energy. Yes. So if you put God in front of you, or a benevolent being in front of you, and told it that it's useless and that it should feel guilty and all that, it's ridiculous. You wouldn't never do that to source energy. So why are you telling yourself this? There's so much, that we have to start taking responsibility for within ourselves, to align ourselves with, okay, I can relax now because the outside world has me. Because I've supported who I am from within, the outside world will support me as well. There's like and I'm really feeling into that 888 portal with August coming up at the moment, because it has, we really are on 888, like numerology coming up.
I have to ask you this
And
last question. Maybe you can explain.
yeah.
You had some bouts with Anunnaki. Now, they say the planet Nibiru is out there, and it's actually sometimes shines up like a second sun. Some people get pictures of the second sun behind this other sun, the main sun. And is that planet Nibiru, is that coming back? Or the Anunnaki got plans for us, Bobbie?
Well, I do feel like there is an outside planet that's orbiting around, because if you look at Pluto, and that's why they took it out of our school kids' reality, because it was going on a warped orbit. So it's obviously been pulled by something else. That's what my guides led me to. So there is a Nibiru planet, and for them to say that they've arrived, so there's definitely something going on there with their planetary alignment coming back.
Right.
And observe, but they're only observing us this time and learning how we're actually getting ourselves out of this mess. It's not a mess. they see it as a mess, but it's not actually a mess because I see it from different perspectives. If I come from who I call the Cyanians, who are tall, beautiful blue beings that are high-end Pleiadians,
Right.
close to source energy, they don't say it's a mess. They say it's just beautiful what's happening. You know, they see the bigger picture. But humanity has themselves in this so-called mess for a purpose of because we have gone so deeply into our outside world being projected outside of us, like only seeing the outside world and not the inner world, the feelings of who we truly are. If we have to come back into balance with that. If we step into our life and go, I feel like this job is a good job for me. I feel that this is the right path, but logically it's just not. What the frick are you doing? You know, Aunt Mavis over there is telling you that's a load of crap. Why are you going for that job?
Yeah.
Then hello, it's, you know, she's coming from her logic where you're feeling into this and you're taking chances, you take bigger chances because you love who you are and you know you'll be supported, then we will create a whole different reality where we're not trying to choose a cake that we don't like and leaving. Like,
Yeah. It's like our soul's final exam here on Earth, I guess. In closing, tell us a little bit about what you're going to be doing and how we can find you on the internet. You have a YouTube channel and you do classes and things of that nature. Tell us a little bit about what you're doing and how we can find you, Bobbie.
Yep. So I am an intuitive counselor, so you can book me online and do a one-on-one Zoom call, and I do readings and intuitively, empathically go and help you. I also have that YouTube. The YouTube is called Bobbie the Messenger, Bobbie, the Messenger. And I've just expanded actually. I'm doing a few more things now, but live channeling. I do one tarot reading a week because I kind of love doing tarot. It's fun. But most of it's channeling. I'm channeling a new being that's come into my reality. Didn't expect a new being to come in, called Nova. So he presented himself and asked me to, yeah, anyway, it's really interesting where that's going. So I'm channeling him tomorrow. Tuesday, I channel the Pleiadians and the Cyanians. Wednesday, I'm doing my true life stories at the moment because there's so many of them. And I do free chat bar readings as well after some of those as well. So that's my YouTube. My website is codestoanewreality.com. And that's all got all of the lots of videos on it, but lots of channel messages. If you go into the, sign up for the channel messages, it's just an email.
Right.
And it also has master classes now, like I said before. And I'm thinking of doing another masterclass, but we'll see how this one goes first. It's my first attempt as a masterclass. I've had really good rapport so far. Good reviews. Yay.
You sound like a great teacher. I mean, you know quite a bit about what's going on and a lot of, behind the scenes of this extraterrestrial thing. Now, this show is also on YouTube, Rumble, Spotify, LinkedIn, and Twitter. So I put the shows out there, for on that. I'll probably be on more platforms for long, but people can see the show on those platforms also if they want to. And you've been listening to Bobbie Richardson from Australia. And this is Dave Emmons with the Strange Reality Show. And we thank you very much for being around. And thank you so much, Bobbie. Very interesting. And it's kind of different, kind of running into somebody who's had so many ET experiences. And I've had the same thing. It sounds like you've had many more type of, I guess, meetings that I've had, but I've had quite a few. So we're kind of hard to believe, but we're there and we're real. I know we're telling the truth because you can feel it in
Yeah,
what we're saying and what you're saying.
that's all we can do.
Thank you, everybody. Bobbie
Thank
Richardson,
you.
thank you. And thank you, everybody, for listening to Dave Emmons' Strange Reality. Good night.